Thanks to MPB for sponsoring today's video. Is the Fujifilm X-Pro 3 still worth it in 2025? This camera is part of a legendary line of Fujifilm cameras, and till this day it is one of the most sought after Fuji cameras, even though it is already 5 years old now, which is pretty crazy to think about. As a known addict of Fujifilm cameras, I've already given a few of these the lick test, but the X-Pro 3 was always one I've been dying to try, because it's basically the foundation of what people love about the X100 line of cameras, but with a bit of extra quirkiness. If camera years work the same way dog years work, then this camera is now a millennial. I don't think that made any sense. Anyways, this camera won't review itself, unfortunately, so let's go out and take a look if the Fuji X-Pro 3 really is as good as everybody says. Paul and I headed to Monschau, a very rustic and old German town, which apparently is known for its mustard. Too bad it's about to be known for the most mediocre start to a photo session I could have possibly delivered. Some people call this weather moody. I tend to just call it shitty German weather. The only thing I like about this photo is that I've been rewatching Game of Thrones and the castle in the back gives me serious Winterfell vibes. By the way, all of the images you see in this video were edited with my brand new Analog Vibes Volume 2 presets. Yes, they are finally here. I've been working on this preset pack for months to make it as good and versatile as possible. These presets will easily give you a look you only thought was possible with film. If you're interested in checking them out, I'm gonna leave a link with a heavy discount in the description, and I want to thank every single one of you who picks up some presets because it's literally the only way I've been able to sustain my channel. Strapped to the front of the X-Pro 3 is today's candidate for hopefully this lens will make these photos look good because you're clearly not getting much from me. But some people also call it the Fujifilm X f35mm f1.4. When I got my hands on the X-Pro 3, I was honestly pretty surprised because I think in a lot of ways this camera is still the best Fujifilm camera, not from a price to performance standpoint or anything. Honestly, it's still very expensive considering it was released 5 years ago. But what I mean is just considering the fundamental Fujifilm experience, the X-Pro 3 just gets it right. Fujifilm are great at focusing on a very unique user experience. While other manufacturers are all building very similar black rectangles, Fujifilm puts stuff into their cameras you would never see from somebody like Sony or Canon. The hybrid viewfinder is the first example of that, and honestly, that's probably the biggest selling point if you're looking into this camera. Being able to switch between an optical and an electronic viewfinder is simply awesome. Though on this day I was mostly using the electronic viewfinder because I wanted to get precise with my compositions, not that this made the photos any better. This really was a beautiful old town, and even if you're not taking the best photos of your life, there always is something meditative about just walking around with the camera and enjoying the quiet and peaceful streets. The upside of moody German landscapes is that they work really well in black and white. The downside is that with Germany having started 2 world wars, every grainy black and white image you take of an old town looks like it belongs into a documentary about Germany's downfall. I have to say, I quite like this image, and I'm glad I took my time to get the composition right. I then directly followed that up with this absolute banger, where I accidentally took a photo of the ground. This town was super cozy, and the weather definitely felt fitting with everything being overgrown and Christmas decorations being up everywhere, but I honestly always struggle taking photos in super overcast conditions. I absolutely love warmer tones, and bright sunny weather is where I strive creatively. But I just couldn't shake the feeling that the conditions were pretty good, and despite that, I was still not taking many noteworthy photos. But that's okay. Even if you're really good at something, it's fine to just suck every now and then. The X-Pro 3 definitely feels like it wants you to use the viewfinder, because by default you can't see the back screen. All you have on the back is this small screen that you can configure to show your settings or show you these really cool retro graphics of the film simulation you're currently using, as an ode to the analog days where you would stick part of your film's packaging in the back. To see the screen you need to open up the back, and it very much feels like it's mostly meant to be used to check your images and not for shooting. Of course it works well for waist level photos, but it just feels a bit awkward when shooting vertical. This design definitely is meant to make you focus on the viewfinder experience. Get rid of the screens and the distractions and just focus on taking photos, which is a really nice philosophy. The X-Pro 3 body feels very good in the hands, and the Dura version I have here is a strong candidate for the best looking camera to ever leave a Fujifilm factory, or probably any camera factory in general. Just one note, it's surprisingly big compared to other Fujifilm cameras, like the X-T30 for example, which features the exact same sensor but is much more compact and easy to slide into a jacket pocket with a smaller lens attached. The X-Pro 3 definitely is a bit chunkier, but fortunately not all that heavy. You know what is heavy though? My love for today's sponsor, MPB. MPB is an amazing platform for buying and selling used photo or video gear. Almost all of my Fujifilm cameras have been bought on MPB, which they're been quite a lot, okay? They might have a problem. I was already using and recommending MPB way before they contacted me to be a sponsor of the channel, simply because it's just such a better experience than buying from some random person on a used marketplace. Every single piece of gear on MPB is rated with a condition and photographed from all sides, so you know exactly what you're getting. And the best thing is you get a warranty on the used gear you buy, so even if you should have a problem down the line, you know you're not gonna be out of luck. If you still have some old gear laying around that's been collecting dust and you've been telling yourself for ages, I should probably sell that, then you can easily trade it in with MPB for a shiny new to you toy, or shiny green numbers in your bank account. If you want to learn more, you can click the first link down in the description, which lets them know I've sent you. Okay, back to the video. In a place like this, I tend to go for really simple compositions. Does it work? I'm not sure. But I'm not a real photographer anyways. I haven't mastered the power stance yet like Paul has. Many people have been asking Fujifilm for a refresh of the X-Pro line for a while now, but honestly, personally, I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon, and I also don't think it would change all that much, because I've been using the X100VI since release and they really didn't feel all that different. An X-Pro 4 would probably have the newer 40MP X-Trans5 sensor, so a decent jump in resolution, and would probably implement a stabilized sensor as Fujifilm has done with all of their new releases. But other than that, I don't think we would see any huge changes, and I could imagine that Fujifilm is so busy trying to meet the demand for the X100 X100VI that they don't have the capacity at the moment to launch the X-Pro 4. That's why I think it might be a while until we actually see a new version. Honestly, I love my Fuji X100VI, but the 40 megapixel sensor is a bit overkill in my opinion. The 26 megapixels you get with the X-Pro 3 is more than enough usually. But the biggest thing I miss with the X-Pro 3 is having a stabilized sensor, especially on a gloomy day like this. Fujifilm's auto shutter speed also just isn't the best. It tends to set the shutter speed way too low on some cameras for whatever reason, and every now and then I forget about that, so you end up with slightly blurry images all over the place if you're not careful. IBIS is just one of those changes where it's hard to go back once you've gotten used to it. If the hybrid viewfinder isn't an absolute must-have for you, I would probably pick up the X-T50 instead, because it's smaller and has a stabilized sensor. But the biggest problem with the X-Pro 3 is it's really popular. Not because it's a good camera in general, well, it is, but there's loads of good cameras out there. The main thing is it's the only camera in Fujifilm's lineup that has that hybrid viewfinder and also has interchangeable lenses. So all people that want that experience you get with an optical viewfinder but don't want to be constrained to the fixed lens on the X100 line, they automatically end up with the X-Pro 3 being the best choice. Because this camera is so popular, the price on the used market has been staying pretty high very consistently. The way I see it, there are exactly 3 options for you. Option number 1, you don't necessarily need the hybrid viewfinder. In that case, you can take your pick from all of the other Fujifilm cameras and you'll likely get banged more for your buck. No wait, that's not the saying. Option number 2, if you're not sure if you're going to like the hybrid viewfinder but you're intrigued, which yeah, is understandable. In that case, I would recommend you maybe try the X-Pro 1 because it's significantly cheaper and will give you a good idea if the hybrid viewfinder is something for you. Also, it's been very stable in price for the past few years, so you can likely sell it again for the same you paid. Option number 3, the hybrid viewfinder and the ability to change lenses are a must-have for you, and you want the best image quality to go with that. Then there literally is no way around the X-Pro 3, unfortunately. Image quality-wise, it might not be the best deal in terms of price to performance, but I would vote that this camera is the sexiest chunk of metal in the world, and you won't be disappointed with the user experience, because that quirky and fun analog-esque Fujifilm experience is exactly what this camera gets right. Oh wait, I forgot, there's one more option. Just find a hobby that's less expensive.